Hey friends, it's Dr. Harry here. We have Clifton here um, he's from the director of coaches for Win Rate Consulting, but he's actually a phenomenal person. I know you guys will be so excited to have this week because Clifton is an entrepreneur with an extensive background in sales, marketing, and leadership. He co-founded several successful service-based companies, one being a multi-million-dollar home improvement company. Now, he has an incredible passion for people. He has hyper focus on things such as client experiences, and his companies have won numerous awards for service excellence. He and his companies have been featured in places such as Inc. Magazine, Qualified Remodeler, and Remodeling Magazine, and he most recently became the director of coaching for Win Rate Consulting. So, Clifton, welcome so much for coming on to this show. I appreciate it.
Absolutely, Dr. Harry. Hey, I greatly appreciate that fine introduction, sir.
So, one of the things we talked a little bit offline is one of the things I love about the guests that come on the show is I love their origin stories. It's one of my favorite things because it's a lot of things, a lot of times that people can relate to. So if you take just a few moments, so you can introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your origin story and how you came from where you were to really where you are now, the success that you currently are.
Absolutely. Happy to share that. It could probably go on for hours and hours, but I'll give you the abridged version. So I was born in Charleston, South Carolina, grew up in a really small town, Hartsville, South Carolina. Just if you know anything about NASCAR, if your audience knows about NASCAR, Darlington. I grew up about 15 minutes from there. With my grandparents. My mom was also living there. My father was in my life as well, but just a few hours away. But really grew up, with my grandparents, and so went to high school. Everything like that, and I grew up during an era, Harry, where it was ingrained that you got to graduate from high school. You got to go to college, because if you don't go to college, you're never going to get a job. You're never going to amount to anything. That was kind of that period that I grew up in. And so that's all I knew. So, of course, growing up, I was a Clemson Tiger fan. And so I applied to college at Clemson and went to school there. And, being an only child, I was always seeking out acceptance, right? I didn't have any brothers. I didn't have any sisters to, shower me with love, brotherly, sisterly love. And so when I went to college, I tried to find, how can I fit in here? And if you go to college, and so when you go to college, there's a lot of distractions, right? There's a lot of things, there's a lot of stimulus that come at you. And one of the things, actually bad decision that I made, and it's funny because your audience can't see it. I'm wearing a shirt that says make good choices. Shout out to Mark Z, Fitness Ninja. But anyway, I made some poor decisions, and I really fell in with the wrong crowd there. I started selling drugs while at college, and I soon realized that was sort of the bridge between me and other people and this connection. I was now the life of the party. People wanted to hang out with me. People wanted to, quote, party with me. And so I thought, wow, I found it, right?
Yeah.
But that led me to some really unfortunate events. I was arrested 4 times in college. And if things were the way they are now back then, in the mid 90s, gosh, you and I probably wouldn't be talking right now, or we'd be talking and I'd be behind a plexiglass window in a cell somewhere. But so made some bad decisions there. I got arrested 4 times. I remember the year I was supposed to graduate, the semester I was supposed to graduate, that was in 2000, and I just hadn't even gone to college. I mean, gone to class at all, like not even once. And all I was doing was partying. And they say don't get high on your own supply, but that's what I was doing. And maybe I was afraid of what was coming next. I don't really know, but that was the decision I made. And so I can remember my mother calling me and all excited, hey son, we've got our hotel rooms. We can't wait for graduation. And I had to break this news, hey, I haven't gone to class.
Oh.
And the response, I don't know what response I was looking for, but the response I got was just one of these, you're never going to graduate. You're never going to do this. You're not going to do this. Essentially you're never going to amount to anything.
Yeah.
And I made a commitment that day that that wouldn't be the case. And so anyway, I went back to school that next semester and ended up, getting, I think it was a 3.25 that semester. I don't even know what the grade scale is now, but so did graduate, moved down to Atlanta. I was 23 years old. I had done 3 internships with a Fortune 100 company. And then in 2000, if you remember, the technology sector blew up. So here I am, a young guy living in Atlanta. I'd been earning a decent living at the time. Where do I go next? Now, if you remember just a few minutes ago, I told you what I became really good at, what people knew me for. That's selling drugs. And so I fell right back into that. Why? Because I was recently unemployed. I thought maybe that's rejection. How do I now, have people on my side again and in sort of my network? And so that's what I fell into. Got arrested a couple more times while in Atlanta. One of which in 2001, I was operating a motor vehicle. I was stoned, I was drunk, and I was coming back from North Georgia, somewhere outside of Atlanta, Roswell. Got pulled over by a cop, and you're not legally allowed to operate a vehicle in that condition. So anyway, I was arrested again. Somehow they let me out on personal recognizance, and so I kind of got to this point, Harry, where I was looking around and I'm like, wow, like my quote friends, they're getting arrested. I'm making some really poor decisions. I either need to get out of here or I'm either going to be dead or, incarcerated. And so I had an opportunity to go up to DC to work in the parking industry. And I did that for a few years, moved down to Atlanta. So I kind of chased opportunity. And you and I were talking, off air earlier about how when I used to chase money, it was always much further ahead. It was like faster. It could run faster than I could. And so anyway, I had a lot of it, but I just found myself being miserable. So fast forward a little bit, I met a young lady while living in Florida in a bar about, maybe 1,000 square feet. And that's now my wife.
Oh.
And I thank God every day. In fact, I go through a series of morning rituals where I speak gratitude to the universe. And she's one of the first things I say. I'm grateful for my wife, Mary Ann. Because without her, a couple of things wouldn't have happened. I wouldn't have made the decision to sort of turn my life around. And number 2, but more important than number 1, I wouldn't have my children. And so anyway, I've kind of gone through this journey of, all right, chasing the next opportunity. I moved to Raleigh, North Carolina in 2007. What was happening in 2007, Harry? You probably will remember the housing crisis. Everything was kind of falling apart. The world was coming to an end as we know it. And I was working in the mortgage business back then. And in that year, July of 2017, my grandmother, whom was so instrumental in my upbringing, she passed away from colorectal cancer. And I was absolutely crushed because now here I am again, faced with, a terrible situation, loss. And so I went through that process of grieving. And in August of that year, the mortgage company went out of business. So here I am, new city with a girlfriend who was not my wife at the time. My grandmother had just passed away, and I knew about 2 people in that town. So my girlfriend at the time looks at me and goes, hey, what now? You moved me from Central Florida, closest to the beach. Now we're in Central North Carolina, not so close to the beach. Don't have a job. What's up? I didn't know what to do. So I literally went to our apartment community clubhouse and on their computers, printed out some flyers, and I launched what was one of my first businesses. I launched a residential and commercial and construction cleaning business. Basically, I was a glorified toilet cleaner.
No experience.
Not other than just chores as a kid.
Sure.
Right? No experience. But what I started to think is, okay, what are the things that people hate to do? They hate to generally cook and clean, right? And so I launched that business and grew that to a really healthy business, what I thought, mid six-figure business. So about $500,000 at its peak. But I hated it, right? I was cleaning toilets.
Yeah.
Who gets glory out of cleaning toilets? But again, I was earning money and I was like, okay, cool. Maybe this is my ticket.
Yeah.
But I soon realized that really wasn't the business I was destined for. And out of a conversation with a childhood best friend, born this idea of, hey, let's start a remodeling company. Now, Harry, I'm not too afraid to admit, I still to this day cannot read a tape measure.
Yeah.
But I sat down with him and another friend of mine, and I came to that meeting with a Post-it note, and I said, hey, here's a business plan. Post-it note.
Mm-hmm.
Sitting across from that table from those two gentlemen, I looked at them and I said, look, we can do this and this and this and this. I need $1,500 from each of you, and I will put in $1,500. And we're going to start this business on $4,500. And at that time, my friend Scott, hopefully he listens to this at some point, but my friend Scott looks at me and goes, man, you are absolutely crazy. Which, if you remember what I had just heard back in 2000 from my mom,
Mm-hmm.
you're never going to do this. Now I've got a close friend that says, you guys are crazy. There's going to be a correlation here in a moment.
Yeah.
And so I said, okay, cool, Scott, you're out. We'll get him another round of beers. Now let me focus my attention over here. I said, hey, I don't need $1,750. I don't need $1,500 from you. I need $1,750. So now our startup seed money has gone from $4,500 to $3,500, right?
Okay.
I didn't know what the hell I was doing, but I launched that business. Came home, met with my wife, who was, she was my wife at that time. She was pregnant with our first kid. We were building a starter home. And I said, hey, I'm going to go start this siding company. And she goes, are you high? Are you drunk? No, honey, let's pray about it. And so she got on board with that. She's always supported my ideas, no matter how outlandish I even thought they were, or people around me. She always supported. And that's a characteristic trait that I absolutely just adore most about her.
Yeah.
Very selfless. But to kind of go through that, so I started that business in August of that year. And between August and December of that year, we did one job. So come home and I'm talking to my wife about Christmas. And I said, hey, baby, we did one job. And she's like, so how good is that idea now? Now I have 3 people that are close to me.
Yeah.
Have sort of indicated, maybe unwillingly or unknowingly, that they don't believe in me.
Yeah.
In not so many ways. And so anyway, within 13, 14 months after that, we did our first $1 million in business. And I knew I was onto something. And how we did that, Harry, is because not some grandiose marketing plan. We got one job, grassroots. We got one job. And I said, you know what? How can I take this one job and multiply it? And it's really about relationships. It's about loving on people. It's about pouring into them. It's about really helping them uncover what causes them pain. And as you are well aware, working in the medical field, when someone is in pain, they will almost do whatever is possible to get out.
Yeah.
And in this case, if they had a leaking roof or damaged siding or leaking windows, that's their pain. Well, now if I provide pain relief in the form of replacement of those items, they're in a better place. And so we did that, grew that business, brought on additional team members, and I just had a passion for people.
Yeah.
And client experience. And so anyway, through that experience, Harry, I went through this personal development journey. And I want to just you mentioned the word impetus earlier. And you were telling me a story off air about something that really resonated with me. And I won't share the entire story about my daughter, but I want to share a story about my 9-year-old son.
Okay.
Because again, I started this business because I wanted to build something for my family. So that was my why at the time, right?
Yeah.
But over the time and getting deeper and deeper involved with that business, I actually lost sight of the very reason that I started the business. So I told myself I'm starting this business to grow something for my family, but yet I was neglecting that very thing.
Yeah.
And I came home one day and there was a letter on my desk. And so, it says, "To Dad from Cody." And I opened up this letter, and my 9-year-old son, at the time he was 9, had poured out his thoughts in some kind of chicken scratch handwriting that, "Dad, I can remember when you used to play sports with me, used to throw football with me." I may start crying. "You used to do these things with me.
Yeah.
Now you're too busy. You're even too busy to go work out." Because I love exercise. I love working out. And so I wept like a baby.
Yeah.
And I made a commitment on that day that, you know what? All this other stuff that I've been chasing is worthless if the people that are closest to me
Yeah.
aren't satisfied. And so I went on this personal development journey, Harry, and I stopped chasing the almighty dollar. And I
Yeah.
said, you know what? What brings me satisfaction? And that's to give back to people. So that's kind of where we are. That personal development journey led me to coaching some business owners, which is now my role at Win Rate Consulting. I'm the director of coaching now, and we can kind of dive into that a little bit more.
Yeah. I'm getting goosebumps listening to your story, especially with your child, because a lot of the same happened to me, and it's a lot of the same that probably happens to a lot of our listeners too. In you describe an almost mirror story. I think what a lot of us go through. As an example, many of us enter medicine because we have a heart for helping others. We have a heart for service to others. But you have a pretty good lifestyle as well too. But what happens though, and has happened to me, and it's happened to many of my colleagues and friends too, is you do start chasing that dollar. So a lot of times, especially in medical school, you are as you're in medical school trying to figure out what you're going to do with yourself. You're going to be an orthopedic surgeon, you're going to be a pediatrician, you can become an emergency physician, neurosurgeon, whatever that might be. But each of those specialties has a different lifestyle for sure. A neurosurgeon maybe has a very different financial lifestyle than a pediatrician who's mostly in the office. Very different, almost multiples in incomes. But they also have a different lifestyle as well. The pediatrician who works in the office is a very different type of lifestyle than the neurosurgeon who's on call, 4, 5, 6 days a week. And but with that though, you develop a certain lifestyle, you start chasing that money. Well, if I work a little bit more, if I do this more, this surgery, this advanced training, I'll make more money. And then your story that you said about your son is exactly the same conversation I've had with my wife as well. In emergency medicine, as with most specialties, but especially in emergency medicine, Clifton, is you get paid based on the shifts that you work. So if you work 25 shifts a month, you're going to get paid more than the person who works 10 shifts a month. It's just math. It's simple math. You're an hourly worker at that point. But you create that lifestyle in that, well, then you want the nice house, you want the nice car, you want the nice clothes, whatever, you want the country club membership, for example. Well, then you have to fund that lifestyle. And then what happens, Clifton, you said it perfectly, and I'm so happy that you're open and said that with the family, with our listeners too, is you're going to have that tough conversation eventually. And if you have a family that supports you, that will have that honest conversation with you to say, this is just not sustainable. What's more important to you. And I'm grateful that you shared that story, because I want our listeners to appreciate that too, is your lifestyle meeting your why? The why essentially was probably get some sign of financial stability for your family, and you have it, but but if you keep going for more financially, you're going to lose on your family. So I appreciate you sending that. And I guess my question to you is, how do you make that change? How do you have that change with your significant other, with your children? Say, like, I'm going to start scaling back. Can you walk us through that conversation you maybe had with them?
Yeah, Harry. I mean, it really got to a point where you know, if something happens,
Yeah.
what were they going to remember me by?
Yeah.
What am I doing it for? Am I doing it because I'm trying to impress somebody else? Or am I trying to impress myself? I'm a person that sets. I mean, the name of my boat is Dream Chaser,
Yeah.
and maybe we'll get into that. But I've always been a person that just dreams big,
Yeah.
and I think part of that, Harry, is a result of, and this is, I love my family. I'm blessed. I am the person I am because of my family. But I've also realized that not a lot of them, if any of them, dreamed big,
Mm-hmm.
right? But my wife, we had some struggles there, right? But she's just like, what are you doing this for? Like, really, why?
Yeah.
And again, I thought that the more money that I had, the bigger the house I had, the more stuff I had, uh, the more travel I had. I thought all of that stuff was going to bring me some sort of satisfaction.
Mm-hmm.
And as crazy as raising kids is, you have two, I think you mentioned to me,
Mm-hmm.
and they're about the same age. I think yours are 11 and 6.
Exactly. Yep.
I have an 8-year-old, a 10-year-old, and a 12-year-old. But there's something about your 8-year-old daughter just running up to you every morning and just loving on you, man. That just, maybe as I've gotten older, I just started thinking about, look, all of that stuff doesn't matter. These kids deserve a role model.
Yeah. Yeah. You're making me get a little bit teary-eyed too. I'll tell you why. Because my little girl, she's a little bit sick today. She's been sick over the past couple of days, more of an upper respiratory tract infection. And then the way we typically do it in our household is one parent will put one child to bed and the other parent will put the other child to bed. And that's how we do it. We'll switch off. That's how we do it to keep it, fair, as the kids say. But I was laying in the bed with my little girl yesterday as she was having her coughing fit. And just like we always do, we just kind of do our stories, we do our prayers, and then we kind of we put her to bed. And then something happened yesterday, Clifton, and I'm going to get a little bit teary-eyed. I'm going to try not to, is as I'm laying right beside her, I'm sitting right beside her in her bed. She just kind of leans over, puts her head on my shoulder, and then just puts her arm around me. And I just couldn't help but smile. And I remember saying to myself, Harry, this would never have happened if I were working. If I were working an afternoon shift or night shift, this would not have happened. And you see, I'm going to get a little bit teary-eyed right now. And that's what I think is important for all of us to appreciate, Clifton, is you can always make more money. You can always make more money, but you can never replace that. That was irreplaceable. I think that's very important for us to hear. One thing that I want you to get into, Clifton, is a little bit is that concept of dreaming big. And I'll tell you the background about that is, I think many of us in healthcare, be it a physician, pharmacist, nurse, whatever that may be, their dream big is to become the thing. So for example, my dream big at that time was to become a physician. But once I became that physician, that's it. That's it. You then plateau. And I saw that in myself years ago. And I see it in a lot of my colleagues, and especially the ones that I work with and I coach with as well too, is their reach big was it. You've reached the top of the mountain in their mind was to become a physician. And I always tell them, guys, that is base camp for you. You have another mountain to climb still. So pull on that thread a little bit too, because I think it's so important to hear your story is when you work with clients, when you tell them to dream big, it is bigger than where you are right now.
Yeah, absolutely. And I was like that, Harry. Like I would say, okay, well, I'm going to do this, and then I would get there, and then I'm like, well, what's next? Right.
Yeah.
But one of the things that, and you mentioned vision board earlier, one of the things that I really started doing is I realized that, you know what, I wasn't dreaming big enough.
Yeah.
It would be like, okay, well, I'm going to grow our business to, $2.5 million. Get to $2.5 million. Okay, what's next? All right, I'm going to grow it to $3.5 million. Get there, right? So I kept really basing it on like these kind of binary metrics,
Yeah.
right? But then I said, you know what? I'm just not dreaming big enough. What do I love? What do my children love? And what is this really just kind of way pie in the sky thing? And so, about a year ago, my wife and I sat down and we started talking about some goal planning and stuff like that. And one of the things I wrote down is I want to own a 4-cabin catamaran. If you don't know what that is, that's a large sailing vessel. And I want to live on it with the 4 most special people in my life. And I literally wrote them out. My wife, Marianne, my son, Chase, my son, Cody, my daughter, Cameron. And wrote that down. And I'm like, holy shit. I read that and I actually got teary-eyed and that's how I knew I was dreaming big.
Yeah.
Right. And because if your dreams, when your goals, if they don't make you uncomfortable, then that's how you know you're not dreaming big enough. And that's what I tell my clients.
Yeah.
Oh, what are your dreams? I want to do $1 million in revenue. And I'm just like, that's what does that mean? Right.
Yeah.
Let's get uncomfortable. But so part of what I do each day is I go through a morning routine and I talk about gratitude and one of the things I say is, Lord, I'm grateful for you for saving me when I could not save myself. I'm grateful for the opportunities of which I do not know yet exist, but the ones that I know you will place before me today to use my talents to make an impact. And I get chills. I say that every single day. And guess what started happening? I stopped focusing on the money. I started focusing on the impact that I can make in the world, in the lives of the people that I encountered, and the Lord put the opportunities in front of me. And what I mean by that, I had an opportunity to sell my company. I had an opportunity to sell my home. Now think about this. Real estate market is great. The business industry as a whole is generally pretty good. So all of those opportunities, I believe the Lord put in front of me, allowed me to sell the business and sell the house. And guess what? A year to the date, my wife made a post on Facebook about, I just want to sell all my possessions and move to the islands. Facebook memories are amazing because a year later, I closed on that catamaran in front of about 70 people at one of our win rate consulting events, coaching events. And that came true. Yeah. But I tell my kids, there's nothing that is impossible. Yeah. As long as you commit to doing the work, you back it up with consistency, and then you actually do the work.
Amazing. I want everybody to really appreciate that story. We're going to talk about your boat in just a second there, Clifton, because the concept of dreaming big is the most important thing that I encourage everyone to do. And I do that to myself as well too. And I tell it to my children as well too. The pushback that I get a lot of times is, well, Harry, I am a physician. I am a surgeon. I have no other transferable skills. So for example, you'll hear this commonly from the surgeons that I speak with, or the orthopedic surgeons or the neurosurgeons, like, Harry, the thing that I do requires me to be at the hospital. And they kind of lock themselves into being, I have no transferable skills. That means I have to live this lifestyle, which they may not be happy with. Some of them, I have such great friends who are orthopedic surgeons, they just love it. They cannot imagine not being in the operating room. If you ever meet a surgeon, Clifton, they just love being in the operating room. But there's a large portion of them who just don't like it, but then they're kind of stuck, like, I have no transferable skills. And that's why I loved having you on. I wanted to have you on is because you do actually have quite a bit of transferable skills, but you have to actually think about it. You have to actually find a coach who can help you, lead you down that road to help you create that vision for you and your family, create that vision for yourself so you can start dreaming big. And that comes with a coach, that comes with a mentor. So before we talk about that, Clifton, I want to talk a little bit about your morning routine, because that is something that I talk about every single week on social media. I talk about this every single week on everything that I put out is the importance of routines, morning and evening. But I'd love to hear other people's morning routines, because one of the things that I always try to tell people is you have to develop one that fits for you and your goals. And I just love hearing other people's morning routines. So if you have one, I'd love to hear it.
Absolutely, Harry. And in fact, when I'm speaking to groups of people and my clients, one of the things I say to them is think about all the people that you either look up to, that are winning big in life, winning big in business, whatever it is, people you might want to emulate. They generally share some very common characteristics, right?
Mm-hmm.
And one of those is a championship day, a routine, right? And so I do that as well. So I wake up every morning, generally at 5:13. I'm very weird with times, and there's no rhyme or reason to that.
Yeah.
So anyway, so I wake up at 5:13, right? And one of the first things I do, I get up and I'm just going to share this with you. Your audience can't see this, but I have 3 alarms on my phone.
Okay.
The first alarm goes off at 5:13, and the label, on your iPhones, you can actually change the name of your alarms.
Mm-hmm.
And so my 5:13 alarm says, "Go be great."
Yes.
It repeats every day, right?
Love
At 6:17, a second alarm goes off that says, "You're sleeping on opportunity," every day. A third and final alarm goes off at 7:03 a.m. and it says, "You're weak, stay in bed," every day.
Oh,
And some people are like, "Man, you're really hard on yourself. You beat yourself up." Guess what? I very, very rarely am ever laying in a bed and see 6:17, 7:03.
yes.
And so I'm just programmed. I'm programming my mind. And so at 5:13, I wake up. I go through a series of things in the morning. I repeat my core values out loud. And so I have this little card, and I'll share that with you in a minute. But I repeat my core values out loud, right? Today, I will live in accordance and in alignment with my core values. I will give more than I receive. Respect is given always. Execute. I don't talk about it. I do it.
Yes.
Attention to detail. Focusing on the smallest details makes the biggest impact and the best impression. And trust. All things are done with integrity. And if you followed that, they spell great.
Absolutely.
Give, respect, execute, attention to detail, and trust.
Love it. Absolutely love it.
And I then go into my mission statement, right? So today, if I'm living in accordance and alignment with my core values, I can remain focused on my mission. I will seek out opportunities to use the gifts I've been endowed with by God to make an impact in the lives of everyone I encounter.
Yeah.
Which then leads me into my morning gratitude, right? I'm grateful. I speak it into the universe. My kids have come down and my wife has come down at times when we were living in our old house. And they're like, "Dad, you're talking to yourself," right? And, but I speak this into the universe. And so I go through what I'm grateful for. And one of the things we were talking about, I think off air earlier is, I'm grateful, Lord, for you for saving me when I could not save myself. Now, remember what I told you my college years were about. And after graduating, selling drugs, full of arrest. There's no reason you and I should be talking right now if it wasn't for the grace, love, and mercy of the Lord.
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely.
And I won't go into a religious conversation, but I believe that.
Yeah.
I have conviction about that. I speak about that with passion because at any moment, I don't deserve to be here. Right. So I speak that gratitude into the universe. I then go get some exercise in because I believe that when I get the blood flowing, my mind is clear, When my mind is clear, I make better decisions. When my body feels good, I feel more confident, operating at optimal capacity, which again, my mission to make an impact in the lives of those I encounter. I can't do that if my brain's not clear and I don't feel confident and my body doesn't operate.
You know, oh my God, there's so many pearls in there, guys. So again, if you guys don't have, if you guys are on your morning run, make sure I'm going to put all these pearls in our show notes, Clifton, because I can't keep up with all the writing, all the pearls that you're dropping. So I appreciate that. One thing I want to talk about is you're living the dream that I think many of us would love, and that is to do something on your own terms. And by that, I mean, one of the things that we talked a little bit off air, and you talked about a little bit here too, is the fact of living on a sailboat. I want to know a couple of things about that. A, what made you do that? What made you pick sailboat and not like, I'm going to live in the mountains, or I'm going to live on the beach, or, what is it about a sailboat specifically? Did you have experience sailing? And then how was it, most importantly? Was it exactly what you thought about, or what are the things that came about that you just never expected would have been on a sailboat with you and the family?
Yeah, great question. So to answer the first question, zero experience sailing.
Love it. Love it.
Right? Because I believe that if you go into things and you've got all, you got all this experience, and you know what could possibly go wrong.
Yeah.
And you may subconsciously start thinking about that. If I go into something with zero experience, okay, perfect.
Yeah.
It's in my mind, it's all upside, right? I'm not naive to think that, okay, well, something could go wrong here. But so zero experience. But one of the things that you mentioned, freedom. One of the things, and on your own terms, one of the things that I really believe in is that we're all destined for greatness. Your definition of greatness, however, is going to differ from mine. Part of what I believe my destiny for greatness is to be able to go and do and whatever I want to do with whomever I want to do it with, which in this case means my family. But one of the things that I wanted to do is that growing up in kind of rural South Carolina, my grandparents, they worked their tails off. One vacation a year, right? And I think so many of us are like that.
Yeah.
But I remember, every year we're gonna work all year. We're gonna save up, and we're gonna, the pinnacle was a week in Myrtle Beach at a motel with outside entry with a key that had like a dangling key tag on it, right? The Viking Motel. I can remember this like it was yesterday. But I always just said, you know what? While I appreciate that, and I'm grateful for that, if it's up to me and within my control, I will not live like that. I will do whatever I want to do. And so anyway, so no experience. But I just have a love for water. And there's probably some medical research to prove this. I don't know. You're the medical expert. But I just know how I feel when I get on a body of water. There's so much like therapeutic properties of me being on water. Yeah. I could have been having the worst day ever at my previous company, and I come home and be like, I'll be back. Yeah, I'm gonna go get in the boat, and I'm gonna go to the lake, because something about that just helped me release. And so my kids have all grown up on boats, and we just said, hey, what is the craziest thing that we could possibly do? I could have bought a motor yacht. Yeah. Cool, right? That doesn't challenge me though. That's just driving. So anyway, so we decided to buy that. I had no idea. I'm like, going into this, it was on my dream board. I had no idea that I would go buy a $600,000 catamaran. Yeah. So anyway, so we took possession of that. We moved down there, and I think you asked me, was it what I thought it was going to be, or something like that? I really didn't have any expectations. Yeah. Again, it goes back to having no experience. Sure. But I will say that going from, almost a 3,000 square foot home, 5 bedrooms, plenty of space, to now maybe, I don't know, 500 square feet, 600 square feet.
Yeah.
It was different.
Yeah.
It wasn't bad. It was different. And so again, if you think about it, Harry, when I talk about that morning routine, about gratitude, Lord, about the opportunities you're going to place before me today to use my talents to make an impact. Again, I've been doing this for a long time. So I'm on that boat. At the time, I had 3 coaching clients. That soon morphed into more clients. And the one thing, I don't have any regrets, but the one thing that I wasn't expecting, because that was the question, wasn't expecting that I would be that, quote, busy living on a boat. And what I mean by that is I was not on vacation. Like my friends, some of my family, people on social media, oh man, you're living the life, you're on vacation, right? This and that and the other. Now, living on a boat's a 24-hour job. There's always something to work on, to look at, to monitor, to be aware of, and keep your eyes on. So that was probably the hardest thing for me, because it was just always constantly doing something. But the impact was starting to spread. I was impacting people on land because, again, give more than I receive. Going into every conversation, how can I give this person something more than he can give me? And by me giving something to him or her, how can that impact his life? That's just what I was doing. So it was an incredible experience. But again, as we talked earlier when we were doing the introductions, had an opportunity to step into the director of coaching with Mike Claudio and over at Win Rate Consulting, because that is in full alignment with my mission to use the gifts I've been endowed with by God to make an impact in the lives of those I encounter.
I think that's fantastic. Clifton, you've been so incredibly wonderful and gracious with your time. I really want just one final question is, tell us the importance of having a coach, because I'll tell you where this question comes from is, in medicine, there's a lot of ego, mine included. I'm humble enough to admit that too. There's a lot of ego saying that I don't need a coach. I don't see value in a coach. Tell us the value. And I can speak to it on the other end of it, because I've had coaching myself too. I can see the value in it, but tell our listeners the value of getting a coach in your corner, and then where can we find, coaches like you?
Yeah, great question. When I was starting my businesses, everything that I learned, trial by fire, falling, I've got so many battle scars, you wouldn't believe it. I'm thankful that I did all of that on my own. And this is not, again, ego, but I now can look back and appreciate all those learning opportunities, what most people label as failures. I can now look back and I can actually use that to help my clients uncover blind spots. I can always be a step ahead and help those wonderful men and women avoid some of the things that I experienced. And so again, when we talk about alignment of mission, if I can help them avoid something that may be catastrophic or may set them back, and help them continue to move forward, man, that's probably the thing I get the most satisfaction from in my coaching work, is that I can see where that client is. It takes me back to a point in time where in my entrepreneur journey, and I'm like, listen, I don't talk about theory. I talk based on experience. So I cannot underscore the importance of getting a coach, the right coach. And what I mean by that is complete alignment with core values and your mission. And it may take, basically like interviewing people for a job, but it may take some time to find the right coach. But when you do, right now I think I have 23 clients, and man, they're winning. and not necessarily all in business. They are winning in business. But Harry, I will tell you, to see the changes that these people are making in their lives, morning routines, championship days, fitness, becoming better husbands, better fathers, better mothers, better wives, the impact that me working with them is having in their personal life. I mean, I get DMs and text messages almost daily about, man, this has absolutely transformed my life. And while I earn a good living, make no mistake about it, those messages mean a lot more to me than the paycheck.
Amazing. Where can we find you?
Yeah, so I'm on social media. You can check me out on Instagram. Ironically enough, my handle there is at Boats and Bourbon. Two things that I enjoy. On Facebook, Clifton Muckenfuss there. You can also find me on LinkedIn. And so, yeah.
I love it. And as I said earlier to our listeners, if you're on your morning walk or in the car, I'll have all those links, of course, in our show notes to make sure you check that area out. And you are going to find all of his stuff there. So Clifton, I am so grateful. I've had such a great time, a great conversation. And thank you for being so gracious with your time. I know you're so busy. And I've just been so excited. Thank you so much for your time, Clifton.
Harry, it's been a true pleasure. Thank you, man. God bless. Go be great.
God bless you. Thank you.